The world now remembers her as the fearless Kara Starbuck, Thrace from Battlestar Galactica, but in that moment, she was just a young actress who dared to take a risk that many told her not to. It wasn't only about playing a character, it was about redefining one. The role of Starbuck had always been male in the original 1978 series, and fans of the old show didn't want that to change. For them, Starbuck was iconic, cocky, charming, a spacefaring Han Solo type. Replacing him with a woman felt like heresy, but for Katee, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. She wasn't trying to erase history, she was trying to write a new chapter. That day at Comic-Con, she felt the sting of rejection before her work was even seen. The noise was loud, the message clear, fans didn't want a female Starbuck. But the thing about Katee Sackhoff was that she didn't back down easily. She was too young to be jaded, too ambitious to quit. And maybe that's what saved her. She looked out at the sea of faces, feeling the weight of their disapproval, and silently promised herself that she would make them believe. One day, they wouldn't just accept her, they would cheer for her.
Yeah, it was, God, like, when I first got the script, it was like 2001, and I was a 21-year-old kid. And at that point, I'd been playing, like, stereotypical blonde roles. You know, I was in a movie where you were like, please die. You know, like, I was that girl, you know.
Back in 2001, long before that fateful Comic-Con, Katee was 21 years old, standing at a crossroads in her career. Hollywood had already placed her in a box, the stereotypical blonde girl roles, the kind that didn't demand much beyond a scream or a smile. But she wanted more. She wanted to act, to challenge herself, to be remembered for something real. When the Battlestar Galactica script arrived, it didn't look like any other audition she'd seen. It came with something called a show Bible, a passionate letter written by Ron Moore, the show's creator, explaining his vision. In it, he described a reimagined version of the 1970s sci-fi series, one that would strip away the camp and nostalgia to reveal something raw and deeply human. That letter changed everything for her. She read it and felt something ignite inside. Moore wasn't just talking about spaceships and robots. He was talking about survival, identity, and faith. He wanted to create a story that explored what it meant to be human in the face of extinction. For Katee, that wasn't just science fiction. It was art. It was exactly the kind of project she had been waiting for. She remembers calling her father, a lifelong sci-fi fan who had raised her on Star Wars and Star Trek.
A risky thing because you were playing a role that was played by a man.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a thing where there's like a little bit of, oh, there's a girl playing Starbuck now.
Yeah, I know. It was really strange. So
when she told him she had booked a role in Battlestar Galactica, his excitement was immediate until she told him who she was playing. Starbuck, she said. There was a pause on the line. Then her father's voice on the line. Then her father's voice dropped. Oh, honey, you might want to go watch the original. That night, she rented the old episodes, expecting to see another blonde woman flying spaceships. Instead, she saw Dirk Benedict, the cigar-chomping original Starbuck, a man. That's when it hit her. She wasn't just stepping into a role, she was stepping into controversy. But she didn't back out. She didn't let the fear of backlash stop her. She turned off the TV halfway through, realizing that what Ron Moore wanted to make wasn't a remake, it was a reinvention. This Starbuck wasn't supposed to be a copy, she was supposed to be her own person. She was flawed, impulsive, loyal, broken, and strong all at once, and Katee Sackhoff understood her on a level that went beyond the page. When she showed up on set for the first time, she wasn't just another actress, she was on a mission. And yet, she had no idea just how much resistance she would face from fans who hadn't even seen the show. The internet was still young back then, but even early message boards buzzed with anger. Starbuck is a man, they wrote.
This is sacrilege.
She tried to ignore it, but curiosity won. She went to an internet cafe, logged on to one of those fan forums, and saw pages of hate. It was brutal. But instead of letting it destroy her confidence, she decided something else. She was going to prove them wrong through the only thing that truly mattered, her performance. Fast forward to Comic-Con 2003.
It's not nonsense. It's actually like brain medicine. Like, you need it. You need a little escape.
of course you do.
And especially if, like, it's escape that's also inspirational and interesting and fascinating. It occupies your mind and it frees you up. If you're in the middle of a fucking war zone and you can take some entertainment value out of a television show that's about...
Yeah.
The lights, the stage, the chaos. The cast of the new Battlestar Galactica walked into Hall H, the mecca of geek culture. As the cheers and murmurs filled the air, Katee felt both nervous and proud. But when her name was announced, the room shifted. A wave of boos. She froze for a second, stunned. The noise cut deep. Imagine standing there, heart pounding, realizing that the people you most want to impress had already decided to hate you. It could have broken anyone. But she smiled, swallowed the hurt, and stood tall. Because deep down, she believed in what they were creating. Months later, when the show finally aired, the noise changed. Those same fans who had doubted her began to come around. They saw that Katee Starbuck wasn't a replacement. She was a revelation. Strong, vulnerable, reckless, and brave, she brought fire to the role, and slowly the boos turned into applause. At conventions, people who once criticized her now stood in line for hours to meet her. Some even admitted, but I loved it. Redemption had arrived, and it was sweet. Battlestar Galactica didn't just survive, it exploded. Critics called it one of the best television series of its time. It wasn't just a space opera, it was a reflection of our world. The show tackled political tension, faith, identity, and even the fear of artificial intelligence. It came out during a time when the world was still processing the aftermath of 9/11, and the story's themes of survival, paranoia, and humanity resonated deeply. It was no longer just about robots and spaceships, it was about people trying to hold on to their humanity in the darkest of times. For Katee, that transformation from being booed to being celebrated became a metaphor for her life. It taught her resilience, patience, and faith in herself. And perhaps the most powerful part of the story came years later, when fans started approaching her with something more than admiration. Soldiers would hand her battered DVD box sets and tell her how the show helped them survive deployment. "This got me through Iraq," one said. "We passed it around the barracks. It helped us forget where we were for a little while." That's when Katee realized something profound. This wasn't just entertainment, it was emotional medicine. A story about humanity's struggle to survive had helped real people endure their own battles. Joe Rogan, during their conversation, hit the nail on the head. People underestimate escapism. They think science fiction is silly or meaningless. But as he said, escape isn't nonsense, it's medicine. When life becomes too heavy, stories like Battlestar Galactica give people a way to breathe again. Katee agreed completely. She said that some of the hardest moments in her life were made easier by stories, whether it was watching movies with her daughter or losing herself in a character she was playing. For her, acting wasn't just a job, it was therapy. It was how she processed pain and found purpose. But there's another layer to this story.
They might have had like one or
I'm
two
sure
other
they had some
shows.
stuff, but nobody
yeah.
cared about it. There was no good shows. No disrespect.
No, there were definitely, I think it was definitely the show that put it on like I mean, my God, I so many people tell me that Battlestar Galactica sort of like.
It sounds unbelievable, but it's true. During filming, she only watched her own scenes, skipping ahead just to track where her character was emotionally. She never sat down to experience it the way fans did. Years later, when people would tell her how much the show meant to them, she'd smile and nod, always feeling like she was missing a piece of it herself. That's why she's decided to rewatch it now with her husband, who, hilariously, was only 11 when the show first aired. That small detail says a lot about how long the show's impact has lasted. Even after 2 decades, it's still being discovered by new generations. Her husband, who grew up in a small Canadian town far away from the Hollywood spotlight, represents a whole new audience ready to fall in love with a story that changed television forever. Katee jokes about being a cradle robber, but beneath the humor, there's something beautiful about it. She's living proof that time doesn't diminish art, it keeps it alive. Battlestar Galactica did more than put the sci-fi channels, now sci-fi, on the map. It redefined what television could be. Before it, the network was known mostly for low-budget monster movies and niche fandom shows. After it, people started taking the genre seriously. It opened doors for future series like The Expanse, Westworld, and even the darker tones of shows like Game of Thrones. It proved that science fiction could be emotionally intelligent, politically charged, and universally relevant. And at the heart of it all was Katee Sackhoff, the young actress who once got booed on stage. Her story is a reminder that sometimes rejection is just the beginning of something extraordinary. Those boos in Hall H, they were the sound of change. They marked the moment when the old guard resisted progress, but progress came anyway. Because courage isn't about being loved right away. It's about standing tall even when the world doesn't believe in you yet. If you imagine yourself in her shoes, standing on that stage, facing a crowd that doubts your worth, what would you have done? Would you have walked away, or would you have done what Katee did? Smile, stay grounded, and prove them wrong through action. Her story isn't just about a TV show, it's about resilience in the face of public criticism. About daring to take a risk when the easy choice would have been to play it safe. And maybe that's why her version of Starbuck connected so deeply with audiences once they gave her a chance. The character was flawed, rebellious, emotional, and human, just like her. Every scene she performed felt raw and real because it came from a place of lived truth. In a way, Katee Sackhoff and Kara Thrace became one and the same, 2 women fighting for respect in worlds that weren't ready for them yet. Looking back now, Katee laughs about it. She can talk about being booed without pain in her voice because she won. The show won. The audience that once doubted her ended up loving her. And that's the magic of transformation, when time proves you're worth better than words ever could. Battlestar Galactica remains one of the most profound examples of how fiction can reflect reality. It predicted many of the moral dilemmas we face today: artificial intelligence, identity crisis, and the fragile nature of truth. Watching it now feels eerie because the world it warned us about, the blending of human and machine, the blurring of morality, has already begun. When Joe Rogan brought up that connection in their conversation, Katee nodded knowingly. That's what made the show timeless. It wasn't about technology, it was about people, about fear, love, loss, and redemption. In the end, Katee Sackhoff's journey mirrors that same arc. She started as an outsider, questioned, doubted, even ridiculed. But through passion and perseverance, she turned skepticism to admiration. She showed that even in a world obsessed with typecasting, reinvention is possible. All it takes is one fearless choice, and the patience to let time do the rest. Her story reminds every dreamer watching that sometimes the path to greatness begins with being misunderstood. The boos are temporary, the impact is forever.